Yeah, and obviously big week this week. I wonder, compared to your kind of Pro 14 weeks, is there a noticeably different atmosphere around the camp? And is the tension something you need to moderate? Is that something you're conscious of when the stakes are this high?
Is there noticeably? It is different because it's Europe and you're playing a team that you don't normally play. So that's the first thing. The tension is not something that is. Something we have to deal with because there's an enjoyment of the intensity in the preparation, and I think that's a really good message for the lads that's what we want to get out of it. We want to enjoy the fact that European weeks and semi-finals do require or they do have a lift. They do have an element where your minds are having to be really focused on a team that you don't normally play against.
Hi, it's Michael Conklin here.
Hi, Michael.
Last Friday night to Connacht, how easy or otherwise or important is it that you turn the page pretty quickly with a huge semi-final coming up on Friday?
Yeah, very very important. We've got 7 days between the games, and we need to get straight into that, Michael. So it's a quick look, and we're not wallowing in our own self-pity. We're just getting on with it. That's in the past now. It's done and dusted. We're in a European semi-final, and everybody else can watch on as far as I'm concerned.
Hi Dan.
Hi Adam.
This year's tournament is having a fairly English feel to it in the knockouts. How much do you draw on those 2 wins against Harlequins and Northampton compared to treating this as just an individual match on its own?
Yeah, good question. It's interesting in the fact that we've had 3 English opposition so far, and all 3 of them have been away from home, and that obviously the travelling makes it more difficult on a physical side of things, but it probably focuses the mind a little bit more, and it's a really good way of it. It adds a challenge to it, or a level of challenge, which is quite exciting. And if you're going to do it the hard way, you can utilise that as in the same way that a mountaineer or a climber, they don't go back doing the same thing as they've done previously. They're always looking for another challenge, a different way of doing something, some way that they can push themselves beyond what they've done before. And for us, it's we can frame this as that. It's a challenge that's worth taking on.
Where do you have to be particularly good this week to beat Leicester? Where do you think they're going to challenge you most?
I think firstly it's going to be a big challenge, Adam. I think it would be a mistake to think that this challenge, because Leicester sit below Northampton, or that Northampton beat them at the weekend, that this is going to be an easier challenge. I don't see it like that at all. I actually think that it'll be a more difficult game for us. They're more difficult opposition to play against than Northampton. That's not to say that Northampton aren't a quality side, because they are. They demonstrated the weekend they are. The way that they play is very dangerous. But Northampton will offer you more opportunities for you to play your own way. Leicester, in the way that they play, unless you're able to do certain things on the in the game, they can make you struggle. You have to be able to deal with their set piece. You have to be able to deal with their aerial and their kicking game, and you have to be able to deal with their hard runners. These are 3 aspects of rugby that are critical. And if you don't deal with any one of those, it doesn't matter how well you play, you can be in trouble.
Yeah. How differently do you approach these big weeks and these big matches when you're the captain going into them?
Yeah, obviously, like you said, I've been involved in a few of them before. Most of the ones I've been involved in, well, a lot of them I've been involved in, haven't went as successfully as probably would have liked them to. What I find helpful is trying to ignore or obviously put away the the pressure of it being a semi-final or any knockout rugby for that matter, and focus on more your routine on which you go back to week in week out, trying to perform regularly. But obviously you have the excitement of it being not a knockout match. The guys have an excitement of it being a knockout match. There's good buzz about the place, so you have to use that in as well. I feel you have to use that in as positive a way as possible, and look to build atmosphere and throughout a training day and the training week.
Dan said you bring a calmness and a confidence as captain. How do you train, or how do you do that when and try and balance it with the inner sort of angry person who may be trying to come home?
Yeah, well, part of the way I feel that I do that is I have a lot of faith in the guys around me who have that inner angry person which every rugby team needs, and it's allowing them and giving them their space to let that come out. That person inside me isn't an enormous person, whereas he's a lot bigger inside other people, and other people have smaller calm people inside them, if you know what I mean. But I definitely, as I said before, in our squad there's loads of leaders. There's the whole team's peppered with leaders, and they can come out and bring what they need to bring. And quite often I find myself sitting back and letting them bring that. I enjoy watching them bring it, and we've got so many of them do it so well. So if I try and become a jack of all trades and try and be calm while trying to rile people up, while also trying to be strategic, while also trying to be thinking around things, I feel like I very much dilute myself. Whereas if I can let other guys concentrate on what they're good at, I know I can bring a sort of a more calm, thoughtful side to things, and try and get my message and get people riled up that way.
Hi Ian, good to see you back. How did you feel you went on Friday, and how good is it to just be back in an Ulster jersey again?
It was great to be back in an Ulster jersey. Obviously the performance wasn't there, a whole performance from most players, myself included, I don't feel was there. But we have this week, off the back of last weekend, to rectify those, and it's a great week for it. It's a good week going in to have work-ons on, and a good week for guys to be on edge, I suppose. So from that aspect of things, it mightn't have done us any harm last week, albeit you never want to lose any of your interpros, especially at home. But I think going into this week, it's a good primer for us. It gives us a good chunk of information to review yesterday morning with the thought of looking forward to Leicester at the weekend.
And just to go back to the squad, it certainly is consistent with what we've heard all the players saying over the last few seasons, that there's a lot of voices and a lot of people have their say, and everything's done by committee, which certainly seems very healthy. I remember Rory Best always spoke about one of the important things about being a captain is not to overspeak, because when you do speak, you want to be heard. Do you feel like you've struck that balance, and was that something you had to consciously work on whenever you first got the job?
No, I don't think it was something. It's something I definitely noticed about Bestie when he was doing it, and I was fully aware, and he had explained it to me a good bit before he retired, about saying he wants other people to do things, he wants to delegate. I would feel probably the difference between my situation and Rory's situation is that Rory probably had to tee people up in the squad, and that day he had to tee people up and ask people, right, I want you to say a bit here, I want you to chirp up, I want you to talk about defence, I want you to get the guys going here. Whereas I feel we're in a much more or a less contrived environment, and it's a lot more natural. Guys know where they stand with the rest of the squad. They know where they're comfortable stepping forward and talking about their individual areas of the game, and I feel that's where I understand and I believe that the leaders now are better than the leaders then, because I have the confidence that the guys will do that. And yes, if we do need something that needs touched on, or I don't think we've managed anything, there are certain players I'll go to and ask them to pick up in bits of detail, or if someone comes to me and says, "Oh, I think we need to be doing this a bit better," and I'll make space for them to be able to speak and say that, rather than almost taking their point and re-emphasising it myself, because if they're the ones who are noticing that something's wrong and something's different, it means something to them. So they then have in my opinion, they then almost have more authority to talk about it.
Ian, you're probably in a situation where you're more used to playing Pro 14 teams on a regular basis. You've had some experience this year of playing against Premiership teams. How different, is the challenge between one and the other, and do they challenge you in a sort of more rounded way than what you're used to week in, week out?
Yeah, I think a lot of the times when you go to play English teams, it's obviously in the European Cup, so everyone's got that sort of heightened sense of physicality and excitement. Plus, as well, because you don't play them as regularly, a lot of people string stereotypes to them. So, big English team, big English pack, which a lot of the times it is true, and you put emphasis on that in your training week, and then you put emphasis on the size of the game, which obviously then heightens it and heightens expectations around it. Whereas obviously when you play Pro 14 teams week in, week out, although the pack could be just as big in terms of finite number of kilograms, you don't emphasise that as much. The Pro 14 obviously has as good a quality players as the English Premiership. Arguably, I've heard guys talking about how maybe it's not as exciting, this, that, the other, more one-sided. But I do feel that, like chatting with Billy and the level of games and the competition within games in the Premiership, it's as exciting as dominant as our league, or in terms of the collisions, they're as big as our league. But for us, back to the very, very first question, we try and prepare for every game as is now. We make sure we're getting our stuff right, make sure that we're preparing as if we'd prepare to play Leinster or Connacht or Glasgow or whoever, to ensure that we know what we're doing and get as solid a basis from there.
Jordi, Dan has spoken in the past about you fighting for every inch for each other. How do you think that you've evolved as a team in the last number of years, and do you feel that you're in a better position now to win these cup games, particularly knockout cup games, than you would have been in the past?
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that Dan definitely brought in from day one, was fighting for every inch, and just to have that 100% attitude for the whole game. There's been times in the past, I think, where we faltered, where we kind of put in 20-30 minutes of it in games and we lose kind of scrap battles, physicality battles and things like that. But I think definitely it's showing a lot more. Obviously last weekend was a step back, but like when we went over to Northampton a couple of weeks ago, they've obviously a big English side, very physical, and look, in the first half we probably didn't match them in that department, but we regrouped well at half time and we were able to come out and do the job. And there's been a lot of games in the past number of years where it hasn't been the prettiest, but we've been able to find a way. And I think maybe at some stages in the first season or two, it was a lot about just trying to play really good quality rugby, but I think it's trying to find the balance of just getting the win, and that's just what's going to happen this week, or what's going to have to happen this weekend. It doesn't matter how you win, it's just you have to.
Thanks, man. Have a good week.
Cheers. Thanks, Michael.
Jordi, where do you think this game will be won and lost? Where do you see Leicester's strengths being?
Well, like, a lot of their strength has to be in the pack, definitely. Like, we've seen a couple of stats of them. I think they've got the most dominant line-out maul and the most line-out tries in the Premiership this season. So that's somewhere where we would... We've had a good season in that department, but this is definitely going to be our stiffest challenge yet. Like, you've obviously enough people like Ellis Genge and Jasper Visa as well are unbelievably dynamic ball carriers, and if you let them get their tails up, they kind of start bundling through people, and really the rest of them rowing behind that. So look, I think Leicester certainly in the last 12 months or so have gone back to what they were good at: really strong maul, really strong line out, and
and really strong scrum. So definitely there's going to be a huge physical battle up front that we're going to have to turn up to. But I think we've done it plenty of times this season, and I'm really looking forward to the challenge of doing it this weekend again.